First half was torture, second half all right.
Hello and a very warm welcome to the Adventure Show, where being out in the hills is definitely on the agenda. But sitting on your backside while you're on them definitely isn't.
All right.
Except for me, of course. Cheers. This is the Highlander Mountain Marathon, and for the next 48 hours, over 100 people will be testing their legs on these hills. The fastest will run more than 50 kilometres, and some teams might even complete the whole course in under 8 hours. For other mere mortals, it'll take twice that long. Now, I'm up for a jump in the hills anytime, but running for 2 whole days? Well, I'm not so sure about that. But others have a different view.
Magic, just amazing. I mean, you don't really look at the view, but on the few occasions you look at the horizon, the Munros to the south, all covered in snow, it's just magic.
It's good just to get back to basics.
Yeah, can't stop. We're second at the moment.
Jobs, work, stuff at home, just doesn't matter.
But these aren't the only hills we'll be exploring this month. Later in the programme, we'll be joining Cameron McNeish as he extols the virtues of rugged Lochnagar. On the other side of the Cairngorms, we visit Lochgarten for the return of the ospreys. And we're off to the Alps to discover why one Scottish extreme skier is making new tracks on telemarks. But first to Strathconnon. Some 15 miles north of Inverness, this is a remote glen, a place that's often ignored in the journey to Scotland's mountainous west coast or the dramatic hills of Sutherland. It may be the first time the Highlander has been run, but even so, it's drawn experienced racers from right across Britain.
We've come all the way from Cornwall to take part.
Someone like Tim here is a Welsh champion orienteer this year.
We don't have any particularly high aspirations, we just want to enjoy the day and get to the end.
Just hoping for 2 days of adventure, really, I think. And winning, of course.
There are 5 separate classes competing here this weekend. Each will follow a different course over the hills. All entrants compete as pairs, and depending on ability, they'll race on either side of this wild, remote glen. We'll be dipping into all of the action, but especially the fortunes, or otherwise, of the fastest teams, those who've opted for Class A. But just 15 minutes before the race is due to start, there's a distinct lack of activity. So it's 8:15 in the morning, that's the registration tent behind me. Now it says follow the markers to the start. We followed the markers to here, and the road splits. So we don't know where the start of the race is. And now these guys here are actually taking part. For us it's not too bad. For them, it's potentially disastrous. They've got 14 minutes to get to the start now. What class are you in?
We thought the weather was going to be awful, which is why we went for the C class.
And have you carrying quite a lot of stuff with you? Obviously you've got lots of chocolate bars and all the rest of it.
Too much.
Which is one of the biggest dilemmas on this marathon. The teams must carry all the gear they need to survive and camp overnight. It's sunny right now, but temperatures are likely to plummet. So the dilemma facing each team is this: should they carry more weight and be comfortable, or go light and suffer the consequences?
Lightest thing possible.
Yeah?
Like have comfort, and then make him carry it.
Seconds away from the start, what's going to happen is they've got the little dib thing and they'll stick them in there, then they'll pick up their maps, then they'll pick up the coordinates here, and then pretty much nothing will happen because they have to actually look at the map, work out where they're going. This is the most important bit. They've got to go in the correct direction. If they go in the wrong direction, it's going to be miserable for the next 2 days.
Anyone for the 8:32 start? All right.
The team set off at minute intervals, and right now they don't know their exact course. They're only given their route map and details of their checkpoints as they cross the starting line.
Well, it's nice to go the right way when you start, because we have in the past sprinted flat out diametrically in the opposite direction from where we should be going. So where are we going? Nice not to do that again.
Okay, go for it.
Now, would this be a bad time to ask, are they actually going in the right direction already?
I have no idea.
So it could be that way, couldn't it?
Exactly, or it could be that way. Until they've actually marked on their maps where what their course is.
Yeah.
They don't know, because all the controls are on the map.
I can't help you, obviously.
Yeah, we know.
Or hinder you.
The lady kindly told us we're
Yeah.
So how do we know where we're going? We've got a list.
rules.
Follow the other people. Rules. That seems to be the general consensus.
So is that, which one's A and C?
Is that right?
Which one's A?
Who do you reckon we should
We've no idea yet. We've no idea. I mean, I take it you're obviously having a joke here, gentlemen, but you could...
We're not.
What are the biggest difficulties in an event such as this?
Crossing the deer fences if there's any.
Deer fences with those shorts on can be quite tricky, yeah.
Well, it could be, yeah.
I mean, after the mountain marathon in October, you know, it was serious blisters, serious chafing on, you know, everywhere really. So yeah, it's pretty hard going.
And you do this why?
Because in about a month you enjoy it.
There we go.
5, 2, 1.
Just really follow everybody else. Not for the camera.
Well, look at the state of this. I've got my own rain.
Sweating on a compass. All right. Onward and outward.
Let's go.
Mountain marathons are an acquired taste. Hours of running over the hills, carrying everything you need on your back, and trying to find a number of checkpoints that can be anything but obvious. So what prompted this new event in the British racing calendar?
Well, we looked at the calendar for mountain marathons, and there's a couple in the summer and there's one in October. There's nothing in the spring. And we thought, sometimes you get days like this in the spring. I thought we'd just hit it right and get a nice day in the spring. It's probably the best time of year to be out on the hills. So we thought, why not?
It's an area that people don't know because there's no through road, there's no big Munros that would draw people here. So it's a little undiscovered gem.
Oh right! Well, we're running camera.
What would you say are the challenges for you guys actually organising the event then?
It's not knowing what's going to happen on the day. I mean, it could have been snow here. It could have been ice on the tops. So we try to have a sensible approach to say, well, we'll put a 700 metre ceiling on the event to try and keep people off the real tops. But, I mean, the real challenges are getting an event that people enjoy, and in the nice areas. That's what we were trying to do.
I'd like to thank the organisers for laying on the snowy peaks.
They've got to be self-sufficient, so they've got to carry a tent, sleeping bag, sleeping mat, food, stove, wet weather equipment, and everything to be self-sufficient. If they get stuck on the hill, they can look after themselves.
But there will be occasions that perhaps maybe one or two get lost. Is that a concern for you?
Oh, I am anticipating one or two teams to do some interesting route choices.
The best way up is probably following the deer track, otherwise you're floundering the heather for too long. There's a good gully there. My partner's just gone the wrong way.
If you're fast and you go the wrong way, you can go a very long way in the wrong direction until you sort yourself out. Yes, sometimes being fast is not the best tactic.
Our tactic is to be very slow at the beginning so we can follow the footprints of the other teams and then
Whip past them at the end.
whip past them at the end.
Run as fast as we can and try not make any mistakes.
And win.
That we've changed the routine for the A-class people. First time I think it's been done, that instead of it being a linear course for them today, they've got to get to all the controls, but they choose what orders they get them in, and there's no clear, obvious route.
No control here.
In most mountain marathons, competitors are given a set route to follow. If you miss one of the 9 checkpoints, you are eliminated. Today's elite runners, those in Class A, have to plot their own course over the hills. This is new territory for most racers. So what's the secret of success? I went in search of the course designers.
So, number 1.
152. They've got to be working hard mentally as well as physically, and actually not giving them a route is making them work harder, because they've actually got to work out, similar to a score course, you know, which controls are they going to take and in what order. So they've got to have their route, so time spent at the start is well spent.
And that means a detailed look at the map and the contours. The shortest line linking all the control points might not be the fastest on the ground, once you take hills and ground conditions into account. It's all about brains, not just brawn.
He said if they sort of shoot off and just say, we'll take this one first, take that one first, they haven't got a plan. You've got to have a planned route, and execute it.
You've got OS maps out today. Now, what does that mean actually for people who don't normally do these events? Is that a good thing or a bad thing or a more difficult thing, unusual thing?
This is a blow-up of the OS 1/50,000 map. And because the contour interval is 10 metres, a lot of the finer features like hills and hollows don't show. So it means you've got to tailor the control points so that they're quite obvious features.
So what we've got is just the usual Ordnance Survey map which hill walkers would use in an area, which is based on a scale of 1 to 50,000. And we've taken that and we've had some changes made to it by the mapping company we've used. So although it looks like a specially made map, it is specially made for the event, but only in that it's been printed this way for the event. It's still the standard hill walkers issue map, just slightly enlarged and with a few extra features put on it for us.
How obvious are the checkpoints up in the hill?
Well, Dougie, you go and have a look.
What would I be looking for?
Well, first of all, you get given a grid reference for the control. Secondly, you get given a description of it, whether it's at the top of a waterfall, the stream bend, something called a re-entrant, which is a form of grassy gully, that kind of physical description of it. And when you get there, you cast your eyes around, and if you can't see another competitor bending over a control, then you actually have to start thinking a little bit. But what you're looking for is a kite, an orange and white kite, and attached to that's a little electronic box which you need to stick your little electronic punch in to register the fact you've been there.
A dibber.
A dibber, that's it, yes.
We use a technical term.
Yes.
Do you also try to put in places where runners can be sneaky in terms of look at me getting to a checkpoint and not showing that to other people and all the rest?
You certainly don't want to make it too obvious so that maybe one person finds something and then everyone else can just home in on it. So maybe you'll stick it behind a rock or down a little gully so that people can sneak off, find the control and disappear off without alerting the whole world to it, yes.
People will watch what other people do, and if they know who they are and they know their capabilities, they might make an assessment of whether they've done it right, and they might do something different, or whether to follow them or not.
We decided, well, if it snows, then we're all stuffed. We don't know what we're going to do with people. But what we've worked out is we should actually have planned for stunning weather, and we haven't done that. We haven't sent people right up onto the tops just because it's that early in the year that we were thinking we might have snow to worry about on the grounds. There's lots of stunning control points out there as well. We try to find places that we think, when people go there, they'll think, wow, what a great spot. And obviously they don't have very much time to sit down and exactly enjoy it, but we want to take them to the good places around here, as well as giving them a run around in the hills.
And we'll be back with that action here in Strathconnon in just a few minutes. But first, before we finally say goodbye to what has supposedly been winter, we're off to the Alps to do a final catch-up with the white stuff.
Can really get into the turns and just make your legs hurt an awful lot, really get into it and drive the turns through. And at the same time be very fluid, just have a really nice continuous movement and following the line of wherever it is you're skiing.
No matter how often I see it, it still looks fantastic. Unusual but graceful. This is Stefan Shaw, originally from Cairngorms and an expert telemark skier. And in order to push the boundaries forward, he's left his native Cairngorms and is settled in the Alps and is one of a small group of top telemarkers focusing on extreme ski mountaineering.
I used to see people actually here in the Grand Montée, you'd see people telemarking and it looked desperate, it just looked really, really hard. And I had to try it. My brother was the same, so we both just went out, bought the gear and then tried to figure out what to do next, Still am, I suppose, trying to figure out what to do next. Most of the time the binding is the real advantage because it's so solid that if you get onto stuff like this where it's fairly packed underneath, I can just hit it into the snow and I don't have to be too careful about the bindings being fragile. Right, go and do some exercise, warm up my old knees. gives you complete freedom, really, that you can really go absolutely anywhere that you fancy, or whatever you can skin up. Especially, you can actually skin higher, like skin a steeper line on telemark than you can on alpine. So very often I find skinning with friends that actually they have to go back to crampons actually a bit earlier. When you go to initiate the turn, you can't lift the heels round, so you can't kind of hop them round. You really have to go in and what the telemark turn is bringing this the foot that's going to be on the outside of the turn, bringing that forward, and that's what gives you the genuflection that you associate with telemark. It's that feeling of going into the space, really, and that acceleration that you get just coming down, getting your turn, and then getting your grip back and controlling it. Like surfing or boarding, a lot of people compare it to boarding. You rely more on balance and less on brute force and ignorance, I suppose, which is a fair description of my alpine skiing. It's a much more fluid movement, and it feels good. Rather than being up here all the time, then you can get sort of right into it, and you got your knee in the snow, and your chin's about that far off the ground. You have to really work the skis and use your balance rather than you can't push it. It's impossible really to kind of shove the skis in a certain direction, and you can't kind of just jump to the same extent. That's part of where I guess this kind of feeling of a continuous, supple movement comes from.
Stefan's one of those people who work to live. His job in the oil industry in Norway means he also gets time to indulge his passion here, telemarking with those big long turns.
That's my thing, really, big long turns and just really ski hard.
Back at the Highlander Mountain Marathon, and as the hours tick by on day one, there's already plenty of action. For some competitors, not everything is going according to plan.
Andrew! So where do you think we should be?
We overshot it.
I'd be surprised if anyone took a worse route than we did.
We came over this way and we missed it.
Where is he? Andrew!
Problems for some, but already we have clear leaders. Way out in front for the A-class are Welsh orienteering champion Tim Higginbottom and his partner Chris Neer.
Just amazing, an amazing day, but very warm, very, very warm. Be glad to get back and get some drink and get the shoes off and get out the sun.
Both Chris and Tim are experienced hill racers, and over the years, Tim's completed an awful lot of mountain marathons.
This is my 33rd. I started in 1991, was my first one, when I came across this one called the Cairngorms, which I'd not really heard of before, which is the biggest one of the year. And it was horrible, and we came back for more ever since, really. It's been a long apprenticeship. You get into places like this, I mean, they're never in sort of big popular places, they're always in wild spots. And we would never normally have come here to go running, so it's just great to go somewhere new.
It's just being out on the hills for 2 days, and you can do it on your own, but it's great to have a little bit of incentive there, you know. It's good to be competitive.
You seen the checkpoint around there anywhere?
Yep. It was a really well planned day because there wasn't an obvious route. They were all quite randomly placed on awkward spots. So the best route wasn't going to be a circuit. Sometimes you can put in a bit of a loop with just a few sort of zigzags. You're never going to find a flat route, but you're going to find a best route.
Tim and Chris seem to have done everything right today. They're the first team down in an incredible time of 4 hours and 44 minutes, faster than anyone thought possible.
4:44, excellent.
That's very, very fast. They were expecting maybe 5 hours, 5.5 hours for the A group, but that's...
It was surprisingly good underfoot, really, for running. You know, there was Well, you know, you look at the hillsides and you think, yeah, maybe you can't run it, and then you end up running and it's firm and it's not as boggy as you expect. And that was just really good, and it was a good route as well.
What did you do then from the beginning up here? What did
From the beginning, it seemed like most of the people were sort of going to head out that way, but we actually came this way and took a couple in over here first, and then we headed back out.
But you're very happy with that?
Yeah.
I mean, that's a really fast time. We're all very impressed with that. And actually, I think one or two very surprised as well. We're kind of like, no, that can't be them, but well done. Tim and Chris's choice of route was almost perfect, but not obvious. Every other team in the A category has made the same mistake by attempting to follow what appears to be the most direct route. As a result, their nearest rivals are over 40 minutes behind the leaders. Experienced racers like Jason Williamson and Carl Price haven't had the best of days.
Well, you know, you hit the wall sometimes. It varies between runners, but it could be at the 3 hour mark and you're drained, but you just got to keep putting the fuel in.
Sometimes one of us will be sagging a bit and the other will pull us along, you know, and then it swaps over. We've not come out to there, have we?
The river course is quite defined down there.
Yeah.
And what you're looking at could be vertical. You need to be a bit.
So where do you think we should be? Come too high, it's down there.
Think so?
Yeah. We both live near some hills in just north of Aberdeen, and you know, we run on those a lot. We do a lot of the hill races, and it's just like a long hill race. So it's great. Love it.
So, what was their time today?
5:28.
5:28.
Yeah.
So superb. So, are you feeling okay? You're looking pretty fresh, I have to say, both of you.
Pretty good, actually. Yeah. A bit dehydrated, but
ready for a cup of tea. How was the course? What did you think?
pretty reasonable. I think if the weather had been worse, it would have been quite challenging. I think some of the controls are quite well hid, but you know, you could see them from 200 metres away, so that was okay.
So it makes a big difference when it's clear, yeah?
Yeah, we wouldn't have done it in 5:28 in the mist.
Today the weather couldn't have been better, but even so, that's not made navigation easy for many teams.
We went in a straight line.
Somebody believed me. They only took my advice, unfortunately.
I'm not going to say a word.
So,
no, I don't think it was that bad though, was it? Just a few places maybe. Right, downhill and in. Hooray!
Yeah.
Mistake rectified, and C-class racers Jenny Yules and Pilar Neer are heading for the finish line. So how was it for you?
Yes, it was fine actually. Yeah, we really enjoyed it.
Really enjoyed the day.
Yeah, it was a lovely day.
What was your time?
I'm not sure.
5:50.
5:50.
Yeah.
We made a couple of errors on routes that cost us a bit of time, but
Pilar loves straight lines.
Yeah.
She likes to go over the highest hills.
Which doesn't go down very well all the time.
Were you always in agreement with your route choices?
Well, not always, no.
Agreed at the time.
Yes, and then complained afterwards.
That's not true.
No.
But, one of the best bits for me was when we did make that unusual route choice, because there was nobody else around, and we saw loads of deer, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Really
hundreds of deer right on top. Just no people at all.
It was fantastic, wasn't it?
I don't suppose I really have to ask how you're feeling.
I feel good now, thank you.
Was it all that you expected?
Some of the going was okay, but the course is pretty evil actually. Like the last bit before you got to run down the hill down here was just a really crazily steep, boggy mess. It's alright.
Now you said beforehand you were doing the carrying and you were doing the navigating. Is that right? You did everything.
You just get shouting at me.
Is it quite tough when you're out there and you are feeling quite tired and decisions have to be made? And does it test friendships? Can it?
I know. See, Mike, he's much more the competitor than me. So it's quite hard for me to keep up.
You've got to look after yourself. You don't drink enough and things. Then quite quickly the map reading can go out the window and you can make mistakes and then lose time. And if you've got a competitive edge, then it doesn't bode well, does it?
Well, listen, I'll let you two kiss and make up and go and put your tent up. As the teams come in, they begin to set up camp for the night. Many have already finished, but there's still plenty of folk out on the hill.
Right, that was easy. Quite hard underfoot, but you know, who cares? Cheers.
Right, it's all for the camera.
Yeah, it was a lot of uphill.
Well, uphill, right there, it's alright.
A lot more up and down.
So,
I'm a jelly baby though, so we're alright.
we'll put a beer at the end.
I'm lying, I'm just giving you some energy.
Mountain marathons are getting more popular, which is surprising given the skill and dedication they require. Adrian Davis is no stranger to the hills. He's in charge of the reindeer herd in the Cairngorms. But like many competitors today, this is his first mountain marathon.
I've never done so many miles on the hill. Well, I do at home, but not in a race. I've got the reindeers. I chase reindeer around the hills. You need a reason to go up a hill, and my reason's always I'm finding reindeer. I've got no reason to go up these hills. First time I've ever done anything as daft as this.
Is that right? And you're in the A category?
I made a mental block. Never do something like this.
Yeah. It's obviously important that you choose the right route. Are you quite comfortable with the way you went round today?
No. It's really tricky because there was a lot of in and outs, you know. I mean, we took a route that came right out here first, which is the furthest point away, and I don't know, I mean, we only saw one or two other people out there.
Yeah, well, the route setters were suggesting to us that perhaps you should have come down there and down there and down there at the start. That would have been
really,
and then gone round. Yeah.
Right that way. Jeez, I wouldn't have thought of that.
Yeah. So is it follow my leader tomorrow, or is it?
Well, he's brought his gun. He'll just shoot them. I won't have a problem tomorrow. We just know if anybody who sets off in front will just get his gun out and away we go.
So you're the winner then. Congratulations.
Not everyone ended this day so happy.
The guys at the checkpoint said there's a doctor down here?
I believe there may well be. How are you doing? At least not looking too good.
Oh, we retired up there. Popped something. I just come down the hill and something popped in my knee. So.
Oh my goodness. And still they come in, all with stories to tell.
What was your time there, guys?
Yeah, just 5:40.
5:40, well under 6 hours, yeah. But are you happy with that?
Pretty much. We didn't make any cock-ups, not too bad. We had about 10 minutes halfway around where we got separated and a bit of a sense of humour failure.
It's my brothers. So.
Yeah.
All right.
So it happens every day anyway. So
all right.
Nothing unusual. But otherwise it went pretty smoothly, yeah. We ran pretty quickly.
Yeah. When you split up out there, who was at fault?
Him.
Who was at fault?
Probably was me. Couldn't catch him, he was going so fast.
And at the end of this first day of the race in Class A, Dan and John Gay are in 4th place with a time of 5 hours 40 minutes. Stuart Whitley and Adrian Davis are just 4 minutes ahead of them, coming in at 5 hours 36 minutes. In 2nd place are Jason Williamson and Carl Price, who made it back in a total time of 5 hours 28 minutes. But the clear leaders are Tim Higginbottom and Chris Neer, and just look at that time, 4 hours 44 minutes. So what's the verdict at the end of day one?
Can hardly stand up, never talk. Oh, a lot of up and down.
We know where it went wrong, we're just kind of trying to console ourselves with the fact that other people went wrong as well.
Oh, pretty rough up there. Yeah, there's a lot of peak offs and a lot of boggy ground up there. Had to cut across a lot of the grind of the country. And, but at the end of the day, it made it interesting. You don't expect to do things for free.
Just trying to work out where we might be going tomorrow. And just hoping it's going to be less hills.
And as the competitors bed down at the end of day one, we'll be returning to the Highlander shortly. April, and once again, time for the return of one of Scotland's most iconic birds, the osprey. Most of us can only see these magnificent creatures from a distance, but last year, wildlife photographer Keith Collins set up his hide to capture their movements on camera. It's dedicated and painstaking work. This is Keith's story.
You might think that being a resident here in the Highlands of Scotland, I'll get lots of easy opportunities to film and photograph wildlife in their natural surroundings. But you know, in order to capture the classic wildlife shot, it takes a lot more than just enthusiasm and luck, and it's definitely not easy. My usual tactics on tracking down a species for filming is to watch from a distance until I can ascertain a pattern to their behaviour, and then, with the least amount of disturbance, zero in on an individual or an area they regularly use and capture on camera a behavioural characteristic such as feeding, hunting or breeding. I recently set myself the task of capturing on film one of Scotland's most revered species, a species which only a few decades ago was extinct from this land. The osprey was reintroduced back into Scotland in the second half of the 20th century, and its populations are now flourishing here. Ospreys thrive throughout the world, but in my opinion the Scottish ospreys define the meaning of total freedom in this magnificent area. Ospreys arrive in Scotland in early May for the breeding season and then depart back to Africa in early September. And I know that Rothiemurchus Estate in Speyside near my home is the hot spot in Scotland for regular sightings. I knew in order to get close enough I would have to either sleep in my hide through the night or arrive well before dawn. The epic shot I was after was an osprey hitting the water and catching a fish in close-up, which I hope to capture on both movie and still cameras. Throughout the several weeks I tried to film the ospreys, I was very often blighted by adverse weather, faulty equipment and just ill fortune. Any lapse in my concentration was immediately punished by another missed chance. I should have known by the way this heron was looking upwards that something was about to happen. What's he looking at? Whoa, osprey! Yes! Coming up the camera. It's not quite light yet and there's an osprey already circling above me. Must be hungry, getting stocked up for the long trip back to Africa. He's looking. He's looking. He's going for it. He's committed. Come on, my son. Yes! You little dancer. Pity there's no light. That's the first bird I've seen fish in the dark. The sun's coming up over the Cairngorms. Bit misty. Let's see if I can get some stills. Ain't that pretty? Yes! Scenes like that, it's just like the sky's on fire. There's 4 ospreys here now. 4 ospreys here. You can hear them just above me. There's a big female circling. She's circling. Yes, yes, she's coming in. Yes, yes, please, yes. Yes! Yes! Woohoo! Throughout the period of filming, I failed to realise how attached I'd become to the ospreys, and it wasn't until after they left that I suffered a huge pang of sadness, and all the good memories of that summer with the ospreys came flooding back. I hope they make it to Africa and back okay, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them again here in the Highlands this season.
As the days lengthen, the urge to polish off the hiking boots for a day in the hills becomes almost irresistible. So each month we'll be joining Scotland's best known hill walker, Cameron McNeish, as he explores some of his favourite mountains.
It's a real blustery day of April showers and sunshine, and I'm climbing Lochnagar, the mountain that lords it over the forests of Royal Deeside. Lochnagar is one of the grand mountains of Scotland, and while it might lack the immediate presence of a Buccleuch Moor or a Ben Nevis, and it might lack the subtle lines of a Ben Alligin or even a Cairntowel, but it's a gritty sort of mountain, and I think that's wholly appropriate for its position here in the northeast of Scotland. I lived for a few years in Aberdeen, and my youngest son was born in Aberdeen, so I feel I'm a wee bit qualified to describe the people of the northeast as being gritty. The people who wrote the long 46-verse bothy ballads, the people who worked in the fairn tunes all around this place. But it's a fantastic mountain. It's a mountain that's well loved by our royalty, by poets and artists, and it has a real character of its own. There's a trivia games question that asks, is Lochnagar saltwater or freshwater? And apparently the answer is neither, because of course Lochnagar is a mountain. But that's not strictly the true answer, because behind me here there's a small loch and it dribbles its way over the edge and down into the Ballacabouie forest in Upper Deeside. And it's called Lochnagar. And this mountain is named after this small loch, and it most definitely is freshwater. But you know, Lochnagar is more of a range of small hills and mountains than one single entity of a mountain. And the highest top, where the summit cairn is called Cairngorms. And I have the sneaky feeling that when Queen Victoria took up residence just downhill at Balmoral, she didn't quite like that name, because the literal translation is the wee shitty cairn. And somehow I don't think she would have approved of that. Few are our mountains that have had songs written after them. But you know, when Lord Byron came to Ballater as a young man, he was suffering from scarlet fever, and he took to walking around this area, and he became quite infatuated with Lochnagar. And it's said that he was quite heavily influenced by the works of John Ruskin. And Ruskin had a strange notion about wild places and wild nature. He saw all as menacing and threatening. Some people have described it as all sublimity and blackness. But despite that, Byron wrote a great song about Lochnagar, and the chorus goes along the lines of, "England, thy beauties are tame and domestic, to one who has roamed o'er the mountains afar. But oh, for the crags that are wild and majestic, the steep frowning glories of dark Lochnagar." You know, there's a tremendous history in these cliffs and this quarry below me. And it's good sometimes to come here and just reflect on some of the great pioneers who came and climbed here, in the 1920s and 30s. People like Brown and Chuch, or later on the great Dr. Tom Patey. And this was very much his playground. He was an Aberdonian. And I also like to remember an old friend of mine who died fairly recently, the one-legged blind poet Sid Scroggie from Dundee. And before he lost his leg and his sight in the Second World War, Sid did a lot of the pioneering work here on Eagle Ridge of Lochnagar. That's the summit, not very far now. It's sometimes nice just to come here and hear the ghosts of those early stalwarts of Scottish mountaineering, those pioneers who have left such a rich heritage amongst the hills and the mountains of Scotland. Cairngorms, and I think you'll agree with me that this is anything but a wee shitty hill. 3,786 feet above sea level. You can see Morven and Caithness, which according to this is 88 miles away. Ben Nevis is, where's Ben Nevis now? Across that sort of direction, it's about 90 miles. And then to the east, according to this, on a clear day, you can see the Girdleness Lighthouse at Aberdeen Harbour. So from Ben Nevis on one side to Aberdeen Harbour on the other side, we really are in the centre of things. You know, I know a lot of hill walkers who bag their summit and then see the rest of the day as some sort of anticlimax. But Lochnagar is a hill of great contrasts, contrasts that are sustained right to the end of the walk. And we're just about now to enter the ravine of the Glassholt, which drops down quite steeply to Glassholt Shield by Lochmick. And in its own way, it's as spectacular as anything that we've seen so far. We've basically taken the tourist route around Lochnagar, but there are other routes and longer routes. But however you climb Lochnagar, I would urge you to take it easy, take it gently. Enjoy something of the character of the mountain, and you too might begin to appreciate what Lord Byron did, that Lochnagar really is quite wild and majestic.
7 o'clock in the morning on day 2, and down in the glen most of the runners will be waking up cold and probably stiff because temperatures got down way below freezing during the night.
It's always an uphill start on day 2, and then the sun will be out and it'll be lovely.
2.5 minutes to go!
Today all the runners in categories A, B, C and D run a linear route, which means they have to pick up the checkpoints one by one in order. And up here we're expecting category A runners pretty soon.
Go!
There's a staggered start to today's race, reflecting the position each team achieved yesterday. So Class A leaders Tim Higginbottom and Chris Neer are setting off with a 44-minute lead, which, barring any catastrophic mistakes, puts them in a commanding position to be first across the line.
Hiya. How's it been? Very nice. Same as yesterday, just glorious. Really good. We'll see you later. You still need to get across the ground, and it's just that, every time you could just stop and walk really, but you just got to keep going up to it, and you soon get across it. You could look at that ground and it could be a real barrier, with the tussocks and the bogs and that, but if you can keep a bit of movement across it and light feet across it. Yeah, you can't fight them, you've got to go with them with that kind of ground.
187.531.
Yesterday, Jason Williamson and Carl Price were the second fastest team, but they'll need to have the lightest of feet to catch up with the current leaders. And some good navigational skills as well. You see, the thing is, if you're out running and you see a camera crew, you'll probably expect that the camera crew will know where the checkpoint is. Big mistake. They look like they know what they're doing.
Morning, guys.
Hi.
Pretty good so far. The navigation's been good.
You don't make your problems.
Looks like being quite a short day, so no problems with that. See ya.
That's right.
Back at the start, there's only 8 minutes separating second place Jason and Carl from their nearest rivals Stuart Whitley and Adrian Davis. While currently in fourth place are brothers Dan and John Gay. They are only 4 minutes behind.
Did you have a good sleep? Was your sleep okay? Was it cold?
Freezing.
I bet it was.
-4 apparently.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Enjoy.
As guys in the category A, in fourth place after day 1, really going for the first checkpoint, looking quite happy.
We've done it sort of thing all our lives, so it's not that bad. And it's not like road running at all. It's just totally different because you're walking uphill a lot of the time, walking fast with a rucksack on and jumping over tussocks the whole time. It's much more varied terrain. So it's not just really about slogging along at a steady pace.
Started off doing lots of hill walking, Munro bagging and stuff like that, and then eventually started just doing running. Did the first mountain marathon a couple of years ago, I think. It's just more interesting in hill walking because you see more and get there quicker.
But things rarely go right when the pressure's on. Stuart Whitley and Adrian Davis, who started today in third place, well, they've run up the wrong hill.
We're up here, and I was thinking, what's going on here? This doesn't look right. And then it sort of dawned on me.
Oh.
And then Al said, yep, we're about here, and then we just dropped down. It was really rough down here, wasn't it? So we got in a better frame of mind once we'd sort of
off
out to here.
What a navigator, eh? We're on. See you later.
While Stuart and Adrian are struggling to make up that lost time, leaders Tim Higginbottom and Chris Neer have had a pretty perfect day and are already heading for the finish line.
Right.
Great bit, William. Well done, lads. Absolutely fantastic. You breezed day 1 and you've absolutely breezed day 2 as well, it would appear.
You can't help it on a day like this, that was fantastic. Yeah. Really nice. Well, we were trying to beat 3 hours, weren't we? That kept us going. Yeah, we looked at it. I mean, it looked a short course at the start, so we knew we were looking at 3.5 hours really, or 3. So yeah, pretty pleased with that. But it's nice not to have pressure. Yeah, quite often you're head to head and a bit tight.
Obviously, it's a linear route today, so not so much choice, but still you have to find them.
It was fairly straightforward. We stumbled across a few. I mean, on a day like today, I mean, some of these features actually, on you know, if you had a bit of cloud, it would have been really hard because, you know, they're obvious in weather like this. You can run to the obvious depressions and things, but crikey, bad visibility, it would be tough.
Back on the hill, and Jason Williamson and Carl Price are now onto the final stretch. They're optimistic about holding on to yesterday's second place.
He's going pretty good, actually.
Well done, guys.
Oh, cheers. So congratulations, second in the A class, boys. You must be very pleased with that.
Yeah, very pleased.
It seemed to have fantastic conditions today and yesterday for running in the hills. I mean, obviously suited you.
Yeah, I think it's actually warmer today than yesterday. First thing yesterday is a bit of wind up there, but nothing today. Starting to get dehydrated now.
Yeah, it was more of a contouring day today as well. We had less climbing, so we found we were running more.
I think the reason that the times are pretty low on this one is just because it is so much more runnable than some I've done before, you know.
So would you come back next year?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
106 done.
Yeah, got it.
Brothers John and Dan Gay are next to reach the final checkpoints.
Well done, guys. Got a dipper.
Congratulations. At the moment we think that you're up to third place in the A class and supreme efforts this morning.
Thanks. Yeah, it went really smoothly. We didn't make any mistakes. None, basically. Yesterday we made a 10-minute mistake which put us down to fourth. So today we caught one up and went really quick basically the whole way and really pushed it at the end down the hill.
And despite all their efforts, Stuart and Adrian couldn't make up for that disastrous mistake. They dropped down the rankings and are finishing in 5th position.
In the sunshine. I bet you're surprised to see us, eh?
Gentlemen, started off the 3rd position in the A class. Who was doing the navigating?
It was me.
Talk us through it. What happened there?
Oh, just complete cock up at the start. Where were we? That was actually the problem. It was where we were. We just didn't figure out where we were at the very start.
Oh, just follow.
And he followed.
The easiest way. He did okay yesterday. Full marks yesterday. No
we got
marks
everything
today.
else fine.
Yeah.
You've done all. It's hard work, let alone having to go up another 300 metre, 400 metre climb.
How
See,
long?
when I look at it, it's 500. It's worse by reading every minute.
Yesterday you said to me if there was anyone in front of you, you'd just get out his gun and shoot them, but unfortunately you wouldn't have seen them.
They're so far away.
He needed more than the telescopic, I tell you.
Well, well done anyway. Thanks, guys. Congratulations, Amy.
Thanks very much.
And you got an extra hill in, so you can see you went further than everybody else.
Yeah, well.
Stuart and Adrian made it back in 4 hours 19, bringing their total time to 9 hours 56 minutes. That puts them into 5th place. Brothers Dan and John Gay came in with a total time of 9 hours 19 minutes. Jason Williamson and Carl Price were 7 minutes ahead of them at 9 hours 12 minutes. But in the lead, and extending it to over an hour ahead of their nearest rivals, are Chris Neer and Tim Higginbottom. What a race it's been for them.
With an amazing time of 7 hours 55, Team Innovate, Tim Higginbottom and Chris Neer. That's fantastic. Thanks for coming, guys. That's great. So there you go.
And that's it for this programme. Just before we leave you, a quick look ahead to next month's adventure show, where I get put through the ringer.
Oh, this is the maths part of the test. This is going all out, so all the way.
Keep going.
That's all in the name of science, to see how fit or otherwise I am. These are the first faltering steps on a campaign that will culminate in a solo entry for next year's Strathpuffer 24-hour mountain bike marathon. And with 9 months to go, I'm already wondering why on earth I said yes.